Welcome back to another Operation Christmas Child video. In the last video, I answered a bunch of your questions, and I told you guys if you had more questions to put them in the comments below. And let me tell you, I think on this video, there was the most amount of questions I've ever had on a video, and I'm so excited because today I am going to answer those questions. And I have a few things that I actually want to show you to kind of explain my thoughts. And then also, if you have other questions, throw them in the comments section below, because what I'm loving is this is starting to create a community where you guys are responding and giving me some more things that I can share to everybody. You're getting ideas from one another. You're sharing your experiences, and it's just been really fun to see and also to help. My heart behind these videos is to really encourage you, to hopefully provide some inspiration, some answers, but also just that we can be a community. And I feel like these videos are so much of a blessing because it's helping a ministry as a whole in like a big picture scale. And so I love it. But without further ado, I have tons of stuff to show you guys. I'm surrounded by toys and all sorts of things to answer your questions. And I'm going to try to make the answers brief, but complete. And so bear with me as I'm doing this, but I am really excited to share these answers with you. So one of the comments helped me to learn something. So I did learn that it costs $6 extra to send the discipleship booklets. And I loved Lolly's suggestion. Lolly suggested that you pray about whether or not God's leading you to send a book. Personally, I don't think if it's a 2 to 4 box that you necessarily need to send a book, because like I said, the books have so much writing in them that us as pastors, when we gave out the books, we actually created a secondary activity for the 2 to 4, actually even the 2 to like 7-year-olds, because here a lot of even the 6 and 7-year-olds struggle with writing. And so rather than them feeling bogged down and not wanting to come back because they were overwhelmed by it, we created other activities to go along with the lessons. So they still learned the entire 12 weeks of discipleship. We just created our own lessons. So my personal suggestion is if you're sending 2 to 4 boxes, maybe those boxes aren't necessarily a need to send the discipleship booklet. But I loved Lolly's suggestion of praying. Pray about it. Pray whether God wants you to send it for 10% of your boxes or a few of your boxes, whatever that case may be. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. Like I said, we have always had enough. And I have heard from other pastors that have done like photocopies if they didn't have enough. But even though not every box is sent with one, we have the last 3 times that we've done this, we have had sufficient supplies to do it with the kids that are able to read and write. My honest opinion is it's most beneficial to like the 8 to 12, 8 to 14-year-olds, just because it does have quite a bit of writing. So maybe that's something for you that can help you narrow down how many you might want to send in the future. But again, I'm not discouraging you from sending them, just sharing my thoughts and my kind of background to how we use those materials and how many of them we've gotten these last 3 times that we've done it. Okay, next question. Chris asked, I only pack for ages 2 to 4. Do you have any special suggestions for this age group? So just off the top of my head, a few things that I know the kids love: stuffed animals, Play-Doh, cars, blocks, balls, and then clothes. I would suggest not going smaller than 4T. For example, my daughter is 2 years old and she is currently in 3T clothes. And so if it's a 2 to 4 box, I would err on the side of larger, just as a reminder. But then I also wanted to mention, I had this thought, and I'm excited if this is something that you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments as well. But I want to do like a this or that. Would you rather send X or Z in a 2 to 4 box? And so for instance, what I might do is, would you rather send little plastic balls or a fun squishy ball in a 2 to 4 box? This or that, which would you prefer? And I would prefer this one just because it creates more games. It wouldn't hurt the kid if they throw it. But I want to do some like this or that type videos. Same thing, for instance, would you rather send a cup or a water bottle? I would go with the water bottle. And so I want to do kind of some this or that videos. For example, one other thing I do want to mention for 2 to 4 that I would recommend. If you're going to send cars, try to find ones that are kind of like bigger, more interactive, more fun, rather than Hot Wheels for the 2 to 4. It just makes their little hands can grab onto it better. It's a little bit less of like big kid toy. And so I would recommend this type of car versus the Hot Wheels. Are Hot Wheels wrong? No, just my thought for 2 to 4. And then the other thing that I mentioned in the comment that I responded to Chris was, especially for the 2 to 4 age group, all of the little things that you put in the boxes are useful and great and lovely, but that age group is going to hone in on one thing. And so specifically for that age group, try to make the wow item something that draws their attention, because in all honesty, that age group picks out one thing and that's what they focus on. And then the rest of the stuff, yeah, they're going to use and they're going to love and they're going to get into later on. But put something in there that is going to just draw that kid in the very moment they open the box, because they are very one-track minded. For instance, my Eliana, she opens something and the first thing she sees is the one thing that makes an impact, and she remembers it and she holds on to it, and that's just where her mind's at because she's 2 years old. And so that would be kind of my one general suggestion for that age group. Try to put a larger and kind of more vibrant wow item. Doesn't have to be expensive. I'm not saying spend a ton of money, but try to put something that's going to really captivate their attention as their wow item. A few questions, and this one I actually would love your help answering because I'm 90% sure of the answer, but I'm not 100% sure. Someone asked, can we send chewable toothpaste? I assume no, because I assume they would consider that like a food or a food-related item, and those are not typically accepted. So I'm going to assume the answer is no. If I'm wrong, put a comment down below to help us out. Can we send Play-Doh? As of 2003, the answer is still yes. At least from the United States, you are still allowed to send Play-Doh, and it's great for the 2 to 4 boxes. Okay, Tiffany had a great question, so I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to share my thoughts. There is always a big debate about size of shoeboxes sent. Concerns that one child will be upset if the child next to him or her has a bigger shoebox. Have you witnessed any such issues as the events you've been a part of? I ask because occasionally I need a box that is a tad bigger because of the shape of an item I'm putting in, not because I want to send a larger volume of items. So I will say, honestly, the biggest boxes that are like fought over, the ones that the kids ask for, are the plastic ones. And I've mentioned that in videos past. But then I've also seen, so yes, you'll have a shoebox that's bigger. And I will say, the moment that we're handing them out, the kids kind of gravitate to that because, I mean, we're humans. And so, yes, they might gravitate to the bigger box. But I will say, as soon as the box is opened, the size doesn't matter. They no longer even remember that their shoebox was bigger or smaller than the other kid, because all they're focused on is the phenomenal things that are in their box and checking out the cool things that their friend got. And so I will say it's almost a non-issue. Make sure that you're packing a quality box, whether that's in a small box or a bigger box. Just try to make sure that there's equality in the quality of the box that you pack. But I would say don't even worry about the size, because in all honesty, as soon as those boxes are opened, it is a complete non-issue. The kids don't remember, they don't even care, because they are so focused on the blessings that God has brought them. And so I wouldn't even worry about it. I will just say, try to make sure that whether you're packing a small box or a big box, it has the same amount of love and care and prayer put into that box. But other than that, don't worry about size. Okay, Denise and Lolly had a cute little comment thread going on the last video, and they both mentioned the beauty and the wonderfulness of packing a stuffed animal in every box. So I do just want to reiterate, people here love stuffed animals. It does not matter the age. In fact, for Mother's Day this year, my husband went and bought a bouquet of flowers, and with the flowers, every single bouquet that was offered had a stuffed animal. And so they're offering stuffed animals to mothers, to 30-year-old women, and it's something that is loved. And so it's a very different culture internationally than in the United States. In the United States, I don't think many moms would ever get a stuffed animal. But here, every single bouquet that was offered had some form of stuffed animal to it. And so it's just a different culture, different, it's just a different culture. And so stuffed animals are loved by all age groups. Just throwing that one out there. Pamela asked 5 questions. So I'm going to try to go through them quickly, but I want to make sure that I answer all of them. So Pamela, please, will you comment on the following? Yes, I would love to. Remember, these are just my thoughts and opinions, but I do love sharing them and hope that they help and inspire. So, number 1, flip-flops that are most useful to receive. For example, Old Navy versus Dollar Tree. Old Navy. Now, here's why. The Dollar Tree ones are just not as great of quality. Very quickly, that little prong comes out of the flip-flop. Whereas, for experience, I just went over to my shoe shelf. I have had these flip-flops since 2016. They went with me to Ecuador. They went with me to Colombia. And they are still kicking. So, I don't know why, I don't know how, but Old Navy does a phenomenal job of making really quality flip-flops. I've had these since 2016 and they are still in phenomenal condition. So, I would go with Old Navy. If you're gonna send flip-flops, don't send the super cheap ones. It's honestly better, in my opinion, to put other things in your box rather than the super cheap ones, just because they don't hold up very well. So, just my thoughts on flip-flops. Number 2, how do you feel about theme boxes? Themes that are beneficial versus themes that you recommend as not being very beneficial. For example, Star Wars, superheroes, unicorns, mermaids, food themes, Disney characters, etc. I would say if it's something that the majority of kids enjoy, make it a theme box. It's funny, the majority of kids love animals. So if you wanted to do an animal theme box, go for it. Superheroes, love it. Barbies, great. Disney, anything Disney. It is known worldwide. If you made a mini box, if you made I don't even know anything else that's Disney because my daughter currently loves Minnie. I don't know. I would say Disney theme boxes are great. Basic, like general shows. So if the majority of kids in the United States watch the show, it probably exists overseas as well. Years ago, Dora the Explorer was big. I think Blippi is currently big in the States, and I have not seen it here in Latin America. Does not mean it doesn't exist, but I have not seen it. However, if you packed that box, the kid would still enjoy it because all of those things are pretty generic, fun toys. The one thing I would say to try to avoid, food-themed boxes, can you put food things, like themed things in it? Yes, but maybe not make the whole box food-themed just in case it goes to an area that has less resources in terms of food. And so, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily make the whole box food themed, but could you send a food play kit? Yes. Could you send pencils that had like food colors and food images on it? Yes, but I might avoid a food themed box. The other thing that I would avoid is like a holiday themed box. Having an Easter item in a box is great. Having an Easter themed box is a little odd since these are Christmas gifts. Having a Christmas themed box is even a little odd. And the reason why is because we typically give the boxes out in like February, March. And that's just because you guys send them in November. It takes a couple months to get through customs, and then they have to train all the pastors. And so by the time we give out the boxes, it's February, March. And so I would say avoid holiday themed boxes, but you can put some holiday items throughout a box. That's fine. Question number 3, the usefulness of bandanas versus ball caps. I think either one is useful. I think ball caps are probably more common in terms of like wearing. Like I don't walk down the street and see anyone wearing a bandana, but I see tons of people wearing ball caps. So if you're wanting them to wear it as like sun protection, I would say a ball cap is preferred. If you're just wanting to give it as an extra item, a bandana is fine as well. I hope that makes sense. I will say ball caps versus like wool knitted caps, I would go with a ball cap because you never know where it's going to go. And even in a cold area, that's going to provide a layer of protection on the head But if it goes to a warmer area, then a ball cap would be more useful in general. So just a question that she didn't ask, but I'm going to throw in that bonus answer. Question number 4, longest lasting school supply brands, such as crayons, calculators, pens, pencils, scissors. I'm going to speak from experience with ministry and with my daughter. So in terms of crayons, the crayons that hold up the best for her are Crazart and Crayola. Crayola, I believe, have a double lining of like the paper wrap, and so they don't break as easily. The ones from Dollar Store, the like super generic brands from other stores, they break just looking at them wrong. And I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but let me show you. Last week at ministry, we collected all of these broken crayons from our boxes, and none of them were Crayola, and I think only 2 or 3 were Crazart. So the rest of them are all of those other brands. They break super easily in the little kids' hands. So if you're sending them to little kids, I would say go with either Crazart or Crayola just because they hold up better. I will also say that Robin from Matt Man and Robin made a phenomenal video about like the pressure and the color, like how vibrant the colors are. And so I'll try to link that video up here as well for you guys to check out. But I'd say in terms of like the stability of the crayon, those 2 brands are best. In terms of colored pencils, I would say also Crazart or Crayola. Their leads don't tend to break as easily. So like the off brands, the kids end up sharpening and then the lead falls out. And they sharpen and the lead falls out. And so they use up those colored pencils a lot more quickly just because the lead doesn't hold up as well. Same thing with pencils. I think there's a lot of really good brands. We actually purchased some on Amazon, and Amazon's brand was phenomenal. We have been using them. The kids that we gave them to in ministry haven't had a single issue with them. I also personally, as a teacher, I loved Ticonderoga, but I also know those are a little bit more pricey. And so I think those 2 are options for pencils. I'm trying to think. You mentioned calculators. I don't have any information on calculators or scissors or pens. If anybody has some thoughts on those, put them down below. Personally, we use the Bic pens, and they tend to hold up well. We're at a high altitude, and so sometimes some of the cheaper pens, I don't know why. I don't know if it's altitude related or error or user error, but the Bic ones tend to do really well at writing. And then scissors, my one recommendation, it's not necessarily quality, but I would say if you're doing it for a bigger box, try to put in bigger handled ones, not the like super little kiddo scissors for the like 10 to 14-year-old boxes, just because their hands are almost the size of an adult's hands. And so they want the bigger scissors, makes it a little bit easier to cut. Also glue sticks. I will say if you can spring for like the Scotch brand or like a name brand glue stick, they don't dry out as quickly. And it's just from personal use with church and whatnot. We have had so many of the generic ones dry out on us, and even the ones that we purchase here in country. But the Elmer's glue sticks have done really well at holding up and not drying out. Last question from her was Halloween, Christmas, Easter, and American patriotic clearance items. What's your thoughts on putting those in shoeboxes? I would say don't make it the whole theme, but I think throwing in an item or 2 is fine. Maybe steer away from like very obviously Halloween or Easter, just because they can sometimes be a little bit odd. Like if you're putting skeletons in a box, it's just a little bit odd. But pencils that have like some pumpkins or Easter eggs on them, I would say throw it into a box. Absolutely. They're great. They're fun. They're useful. I just wouldn't do the whole box in one of those themes, and then maybe like avoid the skeletons and the creepy crawler spiders unless you're going to throw them into a box that it kind of makes sense. It's a boys box and you've got dinosaurs and spiders and all sorts of fun, creepy crawly things. So just use your judgment on including those items. I will say patriotic things, the kids love. Like, they absolutely love when something has English writing on it. They love the getting American flag things. And so those things, it might sound weird because you're like, but they're not from the United States. But it shows them where the box came from, and they find those things super, super interesting. So there's my thoughts on that one. Last thing, Lolly made a comment about God leading her and her feeling really in her heart that she wants to pack some more gender neutral boxes. We've talked about this a lot sometimes, whether it's by error or because they needed another box in a specific age or a specific gender. They switch the boxes up because that's what they have. And so she just felt God leading her to do some more gender neutral things. I will say on your labels, you can only mark one. However, we have gotten a lot of boxes that up at the top in like black Sharpie, they say also okay for, and they put girl, but it's marked boy down below. And so that's a way you can do it without breaking OCC's rules, but giving a little tip or trick to the pastor or church that gets the box. But I will also say, she mentioned, unfortunately, making gender neutral boxes, I don't know what to send for clothing, or I might not be able to send clothing. One thing I will say is that in at least Ecuador and Colombia, many of the kids need basics for school. And so if you look, this is technically a girl's polo, but when they're girls' sizes or boys' sizes at this age, they're not cut in like a hips of a girl. It's straight, it's a regular polo. If you got this in a girl's box, you would use it. If you got this in a boy's box, you could still use it. And so if you can find some like basic tees or basic color polos, it doesn't have flowers, it doesn't have hearts, it doesn't have anything girly on it, this could technically be used for a boy or a girl. And if you were wanting to send a gender neutral box, you could do something like this. So just a thought on that. And then there was one other comment about someone, I can't remember who said it, but they wanted to, I made a comment that they should try to pack water bottles. That's something that's useful. I personally think a water bottle is more useful than a cup. It keeps the liquid inside clean. And so I recommended water bottles, and they said, but it's hard in these smaller boxes. And so my tip for that would be, instead of sending a huge water bottle, try to find like the half size. And then also to remember that you can fill the water bottle with all sorts of school supplies and things to use space so that that bottle isn't taking up a ton of space in your box. We're actually getting ready. I'm going to Ecuador this summer, and there's a child sponsorship program. And so we're currently packing up some things that we found here in Colombia to take as gifts. And so this is started. I'm going to try to fill it more, but it's a start to one of those little care packages I'm packing for one of the kiddos. And so it's just an example of, you can put hair clips, you can put sharpeners, pencils, little bouncy balls, erasers. And I actually think I've got like some Christmassy erasers in here, but even though it's a Christmas eraser, because it's just a fun item, it's not gonna be odd for them to open and have a Christmas item in there as well. But I think I answered all of the questions that were given in that last video. Again, if you have more questions, put them down below. I am going to do a this or that video, hopefully for every gender, for every age, coming up here soon. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on those videos. And we will see you guys on the next video. I'm going to put a link up here if you guys want to check out some more OCC tips and questions. But we love you guys, and we will see you on the next video.